Hello?
Yes, sir.
Hello?
Hello?
Can you hear me?
Good morning, everyone. We are having just a couple of technical difficulties, but we want to go ahead and get started as you know, we want to be cognizant of everyone's time. We're going to ask that the committee members unmute themselves, and at the time frame that we ask for public comments, we'll ask that you would ask to unmute yourself so that we can hear everyone that has something to say. We have a lot of people that are joining the call today. We appreciate you all taking the time out to listen and just be respectful of everyone that's on the call. So we'll go ahead and get started with the committee members. And again, if you are not speaking, we'll ask that you mute yourselves or you will be muted. And all committee members will need to unmute themselves.
Hello.
Yes, sir. We are here.
Okay. So good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our ARPA committee meeting. We'll just do a roundtable for all of the members to introduce themselves. My name is Jarvis Sims, and I serve as the interim county manager.
Hello, everyone. I'm Commissioner Sanders, and I serve as one of the committee members as well for ARPA.
Yeah, this is Stan Edwards, District 1 Commissioner.
And I am Patrick Jogstead of the County Attorney.
Thank you, everyone, for being here. So we have several things we probably need to discuss today, and I will yield to Patrick, the attorney, to start us off.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Sims. So I think the first thing we need to start discussing, and y'all tell me if you want to do it in a different order. I don't have any preference as to order, but to me, the big thing we need to talk about is how we are going to handle the business assistance grants that have been discussed. I think a couple of the decisions we need to make, I think the first decision is going to be, do we wait until a consultant is retained and have them prepare a program for the board's consideration? Or do we go ahead as a committee and make recommendations for the guidelines or guardrails? I think that's one item for discussion. The next one I think would be, how do we've only got a limited amount of money. We've got a pot of money from which to draw these funds. And it's how, I think one of the things we need to discuss is how do we allocate that money? Not necessarily on the micro level, not which business gets it, but as a committee, are we going to recommend that we give something to everyone who applies? Are we going to recommend that we focus these grants on specific businesses? Or how are we going to view those? And I know Commissioner Sanders and I had an email discussion. One of my concerns, and I don't intend to voice a preference one way or the other. One of my concerns is if we have, 10,000 businesses and we can only give each business, $100 or whatever the number is, that there's a point where we're really not helping. But at the same time, if we exclude businesses and focus on a specific sector or focus on a specific type of business, then someone may get left without some assistance. So I think that's a discussion we should have. It's how do we view the equities in distributing the monies? So those are the two things I think we should discuss with respect to the business assistance. Is number one, to what extent do we let the consultant get into place and make recommendations and establish the program for us? And number two, how do we, big picture wise, how do we view the allocation procedure?
Thank you so much, Patrick. I'm glad you brought those 2 points about waiting on the consultant can be months because, as you know, we're just still reviewing the process. And the board, the ARPA Fund Committee has been working on this for a little bit over a year. So we kind of put the process in place and started with what's going on now without a consultant. So that would be my question too. What is going to be the responsibility of the consultant? Because the Board of Commissioners and the ARPA Committee has done a lot of the work. Waiting for that consultant, we don't know what business has a need. And so that would be the issue, kind of like we gave the funds to Willing Helpers and Viewpoint Health. They had a need. So we don't know if any of these small businesses have a need at the time. So if we're waiting for a consultant, then we're putting those businesses in a crunch when it's supposed to be rescue funds. So that would be my issue in regards to that. So I think that we are capable and competent enough to move forward with the process without waiting on the consultant for this sector because the Board of Commissioners already approved it. So let's move forward with the process.
So I would just like to give the committee just an update on the numbers. As of 6:30, we've received a total of 78 applications. 60 of those are small business applications. 18 are nonprofit applications. A total of 78 applications we've received.
Okay.
Also, we received our second allocation of the ARPA funding this past Monday. And I think we emailed a breakdown to the committee as far as where we are with the different categories. I definitely hear what you're saying, Commissioner Sanders, with the various amounts that we've received from the applicants, I don't know if not having a maximum amount in place would serve us well, because I'm sure we might receive other applicants. And as you stated or know, we've received applications, various ranges of requests, and to accommodate at some level, we just need to have some minimum and maximum amounts, I think, in place to serve the entire county as best as possible.
I don't know if you received the email. I included you on it when Patrick and I were talking back and forth. That was my suggestion on what the minimum and maximum should be. I based it on amount of numbers because I have been watching the applications come in, because all the committee members are able to see the applications. So I was basing it on that to make sure that we cover the entire county. When we are speaking to Patrick, as I stated, if we had, like, give you an example, we had a maximum of 5,000 per actual business, or 10,000, however the board actually sees fit, then we're able to cover businesses in the county. We've had some businesses ask for almost $1 million or $600,000. With only $800,000 in the pot, there is no way we will be able to cover everyone. So out of fairness for everyone who applied, of course, if they pass the qualifications that were submitted to them before they submit their application, all the information is gathered, we definitely need to have a maximum. My suggestion for maximum was 5,000. It can go up more now that I see that the numbers are only 78 applications, 60 are small business, 18 are nonprofits. So it can be a little bit more, because I based it on possibly if it was 160 people that submitted. So it's in that email that I sent out on yesterday, and I don't mind sharing that also with the individuals that are on the call, our residents. But we do need to set a minimum and a maximum so that we can cover all businesses. This is small business assistance. This is not to help the business there for their entire operation. Of course, we cannot do that. So any assistance to a small business, textbook verbiage for small businesses, those who make $500,000 or less, but it has become a little bit more since our last administration. So giving them some type of assistance is going to help that small business. Give you an example, if it was a salon owner or a barbershop, giving them $5,000 or $1,000 can help towards their supplies that they need for that shop. So we have to look at that. We're not trying to cover everyone's expense, because we can't, because we only received 10 million for the first one. We only put $800,000 in the pot. Now, if the commissioners have that leeway to say we want to put more money in it, especially since we just got the other 10 million just came in, you said on Monday, the commissioners have the liberty to do that. And I know Commissioner Edwards kind of mentioned we need to put some more money in the pot for small businesses. But setting that standard of at least maybe 5 or 10,000 per business, or 5, that will be a set rate to make sure we're covering everyone in the county versus only covering 2 or 3 businesses and focusing on their issues, but we're giving everyone the opportunity.
If I could make some comments, Patrick, addressing what's the questions that you had posed. I'm not sure how we're going to be able to sort through the applications in a more timely manner than meeting once a month at best to date. Sure how we're going to be able to sort through the applications any faster than a consultant would. So I know, Commissioner Sanders disagrees with this, but I think we should wait on the consultant to press forward with this. I work a full-time job. I'm not going to have the time during the day to sit down and go through applications. So that's where I would like to see us go. So I'm just one commissioner's opinion, but additionally, I originally assumed that you had to have, and I'm seeing these emails, that we had to have a Newton County business license for a business to apply for these ARPA funds.
That was never discussed.
I'm not sure where I missed that.
Yeah, that was never discussed. We, per the state of Georgia, you are not required to have a business license to operate your business. These funds are coming from the federal government, not Newton County. It is for all businesses. So we're being a subsidiary, as I stated in that email, for the federal government to be an operation for them, to supply these funds for them. You're not required. If you have a home-based business and your business does not require a location, you're not required to have a business license. You have a lot of businesses here in the state of Georgia that do not have a business license to operate because they're not required to do so. Now, I did see where our chamber actually sent a code from Newton County. Unfortunately, these are not Newton County dollars. And what should have happened, if that's what the commissioners have wanted, we should have stated that before this application came out. Now that we have the application process out and you've given requirement, we had a recorded meeting. And we told these businesses that were sitting in the audience, it's recorded, what they're required to have. And they provided that all on that application. So now we're going back and telling them they need to provide an additional structure to this. It's going to look discriminatory because it's not a requirement by the Department of Treasury, nor it's a requirement by the state of Georgia.
But it is a requirement in Newton County to have a business license.
This is federal dollars, it's not Newton County dollars.
Yeah,
So let me address and let me sort of step backwards. In order to conduct a for-profit business in Newton County, Georgia, you are supposed to have an occupational tax certificate, which is a business license. If you are operating a business in Newton County, Georgia, and you do not have an occupational business certificate, unless you are an exempt business, and there are some exempt businesses, you're operating illegally. So I think we have to make a decision. While ARPA and the Treasury guidelines don't say you must have a business license, that's like saying that I don't need a driver's license to get a free gas card or something like that. I mean, I think we're going to find out if we. I mean, so here becomes a question. Imagine Joe's chair upholstery business is located in Newton County. They do not have an occupational business certificate. We get an application from them. We now find out they're conducting a business in Newton County without the proper license. Should we refer them to the licensing folks or code enforcement? And I don't know. I mean, I think in Newton County, in virtually every county in the state of Georgia, you're required by law to pay that occupational tax certificate. So I'm a little concerned about taking that requirement away. I've never seen a federal program or a state program that granted business relief without requiring business licenses. I can't say that I've ever looked at that. I think that's probably a pretty basic fundamental requirement
to us, Patrick, as our county attorney. That should have been brought up before this application ever came out. That should have been brought up before we even had that last ARPA meeting requesting certain things from these businesses to be approved. That also should have been brought up before we gave money to various organizations and they didn't even provide these information or these items. So that should have been something that was brought up to those individuals who submitted before they did. That is my only issue. Now, if the board came together before this application was put out and said, these are the requirements, that application was brought before the board and they approved it. It was read and brought before the board and they approved it. I didn't do it by myself. That was my colleagues. We all approved it. It was a 5-0 vote. So that should have been brought up before we put an application out at all. And when we had our ARPA meeting and we went through those businesses that came up to us, that was not a requirement. All the questions that were asked to them, there were even items that was asked to them that they weren't even really supposed to have in regards to DUNS and having the sounds. So these were not brought up to the people. That's why I said, in all fairness, we have to alert them beforehand. Like you just said, those who actually submitted, if they don't have a business license, should we report them to code enforcement? But did you tell them that? We didn't. So that is my only concern.
The application was not intended to spell out all of the requirements for receipt of those funds. That was intended to get the names in the buckets so we know what the demand is.
That's not what was stated at that meeting. That meeting is recorded. It was not stated at that meeting.
Yeah. So, and the nonprofits don't get the occupational tax certificates like for-profit businesses do. So it's apples and oranges. But look, that's a decision that the board, that this committee and the board ultimately get to make. But I'm a little hesitant that we reward businesses in this county that are operating outside of what our county law requires. I don't get to waive that requirement. None of us get to waive that requirement. That's just something to think about. So.
Well, I know the nonprofits do not have that, but they have an administrative fee of $75 and a show of the 501c3 letter, but they don't have the business license requirement. Yeah,
and there are a number of businesses. There are a number of types of businesses, depending on locations and exactly what business you're doing, that may not require it. I'm not, but as a general rule, businesses require occupational tax certificates, and I think that's just something we should consider and make a decision about.
Well, like I said, there was an assumption on my part that this was just a given that this had to be. Shame on me, I guess, but that anybody applying for a business, applying for ARPA funds with a business in Newton County had a Newton County business license. I just assumed that, and I. My thinking has been by not having one, they're breaking the law, and I'm not going to vote to give ARPA funds to anyone.
Well, they're not breaking the law. Let's make sure we make that clear. They're not breaking the law because the state of Georgia does not a requirement. That's just something all businesses are not required to have a business license. So they're not breaking the law if they're not required to have one.
Breaking local ordinance then, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Well, if I may add, one of the reasons why we decided to have a RFP to hire ARPA consultants to assist us with this is exactly this, to put parameters in place so we can have some guidelines. So my recommendation is to move forward with selecting the consultant and allow them to do their work as far as assisting us with the parameters we have in place for selecting the businesses, whatever other metrics we have in place. We did our due diligence. We had an RFP out. We had so many applicants. We had a committee that selected the best consultants based on qualifications, experience. So I think we can afford them the opportunity to go ahead and move forward with the process for us.
I think with the consultants, I don't know if we could talk about that here. I had an issue with the amount that they're requesting because a lot of the work has already been done. They're basically just going to be following a pattern where we are as the board. I know they have to file certain reports, but our finance director has been doing it as well. So the amount that they're requesting, I did look at the information that was sent to us. I would like to know exactly what they're going to be doing for Newton, because a lot of the things have already been structured for them. It's been laid out. So they're just following suit in regards to that. So $500,000 for consulting, I know it said up to, that is a lot when the work has already been done. Some of the work has been done. So that would be my discussion in regards to that. So that's a huge concern. And I'm pretty sure you saw the face of the commissioners when that amount was announced. It was like, what? So I would like to know from those top three, the one that you selected, what is going to be the actual cost? What is going to be the outline of what they're going to be doing for the county? Because that $500,000 is coming out of the ARPA funds, was taken from assistance from the community. So I would definitely, and it's good that we need a consultant because I was for a consultant. I'm just worried about the process of it being put in place. Is that how long it's going to take for them to get to these businesses that need the assistance? Because we've been sitting on these funds since March of 2021.
I think once we select a consultant, just like with the Salvation Army, they have the infrastructure in place to go ahead and move forward. Once we decided on the Salvation Army, we quickly realized what they could do, and they were very successful. And I think the same thing with either of these three consultants that provided their proposals. And regarding to the fees, As you know, fees are also based on dollar amounts. So, I mean, I don't know exactly determination of their fees, but if they're managing up to $20 million, I mean, I think that their fees are reflective of the dollar amount that they're managing.
Well, they won't be managing up to 20 because a lot of it, and I know it's an example you're giving, I'm just saying, but because a lot of it has already been distributed and already ready to go out. So that would be I just want to know exactly what their actual fees are, because as you mentioned, the Salvation Army, they're here in Newton, so they know our need and they already had a structure for Newton County. These consultants don't have a structure for our county, so they still have to do research on the county itself. Because I did look at some of them, they've done work in Florida and not even in the state of Georgia. So that would be my concern, is they will have to do some type of research on our state and our county on the need. So it takes time.
So I think maybe Commissioner Sanders, and you tell me if I'm wrong, maybe the point we're getting to is we want to see a menu of services and fees, perhaps.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
like, you know, maybe there's, and I don't have that in front of me right now, I'm going to pull it up, but maybe there are some services we just don't need them to do. Maybe we don't need them to pick a service. And maybe, you know, their anticipation was to charge $85,000 for that service, but we don't need it either because we've already done it or we'll do it ourselves. And I wonder if maybe, Jarvis, I wonder if your folks can maybe solicit from these folks a menu of services. Now, the problem is I don't know how long that'll take. And I don't know that they know that going in. I mean, I think, you know, if you were to ask me to provide to you a menu of services and an accompanying fee, I would need to know what, you know, reviewing ordinances. How many ordinances am I going to review? And I don't know.
Research.
So, you know, maybe we need them to provide us with their hourly rate or something like that. Cause I do think their proposal was based on rates for services depending on who the service provider was. Maybe we just need to get that and have a good idea. I mean,
we gave them a scope of expectations as well, too, right, in the RFP. So
yes.
So I have not read those emails yet with the consultant information in those, but I plan to tonight. But yeah, we have to be able to map their pricing, their price points over, or their price point over to what we asked them to do, assuming they agreed to do everything that we asked them to do in the RFP. So there may be some money to be cut there. I just don't know.
Yeah, I agree, Commissioner. That was my concern, because I know that there should be some funds that's cut because some of the work has already been done. So they won't be managing 20 million. They probably be managing the new amount that's coming in, because the commissioners already voted where those other funds, the first 10 million, is going. So they just basically be helping with the allocation. Oh, and I guess our next question was from you, Patrick, was how much should we provide for each, for minimum and maximum? My suggestion, and I would love to hear from my colleague that's on the committee, my suggestion is the minimum is 1,000 and the max. This is for small business assistance, not corporation assistance. The minimum is 1,000, the maximum is 10. It can go in between those amounts, because they had some of the applications, they had some individuals that actually only needed 1,000. They had some that only needed 3,000. Some that needed 5. So we probably can accommodate those based on the qualifications that are set. There were some that had astronomical prices. I know that we need astronomical needs, and I say prices, needs that I know we cannot accommodate based on the amount that's in the pot. So unless we add more. So I would love to hear from my colleague if he had any suggestions.
I would have a question that I think we should discuss. How do we decide how much between 1,000 and 10,000 they get? Is there any analysis? If someone requests 30,000, do we automatically give them 10? If somebody requests 5,000, do we automatically give them 5? Or do we do any analysis to make a determination about what amount within that target is acceptable?
That is a good question. And if we're waiting for the consultant to come on board, maybe that consultant in their time, that business that we're allocating those funds to will contact that business and say, hey, these are our minimum and maximum. We know that you asked for 600,000 or so much, but our minimum maximum is 10. How would this benefit your business? If it won't benefit your business, then those funds, they could tell us yay or nay. I don't think any company, that's just my personal opinion, it's not an opinion of the board or Newton County, just being a business professor. I don't think any business, as small business, would decline an amount because it's a need. $1,000 can go towards something. It's supplies. 5,000 would go towards something. 10,000. You know, like I said, these are not corporations with a multitude of employees. These are small businesses that any amount I wouldn't, would assist. So I do agree with you, Patrick. But I think the consultants, we're moving forward with that, can basically have that conversation with that business.
So are we saying that everyone applies is going to get something? Is that what we're saying?
Well, I wouldn't say that because they have to be vetted. So it's based on their information that they're sent. So it's just like a standard amount.
Okay, I was just okay. So there's not automatic that you're going to get it sent just to apply. Okay, so I mean that's mine and your opinion, right? So
yeah.
Have to advise the board on that, but I just don't I don't know. I've seen one that came through, and what credence are we going to lend to the fact that the original intent of this was COVID related, right? I mean,
it doesn't have to be anymore. I'm sorry. Did I go ahead and finish? I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off.
Well, no, I was going to say I saw one come through for it's the nonprofit, the YMCA, where they fed the children, the underprivileged children of our county. I went with them a couple of days, as a matter of fact, for weeks in place of the school system. As we all know, some kids never get anything to eat unless they go to school, or don't get enough to eat. So we went to, or they did, I didn't. I did just a couple of days, but they go to the underprivileged areas and fed these kids, and they had to use their funds to do that. So that's one of the ones that that kind of stood out to me. I don't remember what they asked for, but are we still using that type criteria? I mean, or should we use that criteria? I think we should keep it on that side. I don't know necessarily restrict it to that, but I think we should kind of keep it to keep in mind that this was originally COVID type relief funds anyway.
Well, the Department of Treasury relaxed the actual ruling. It doesn't have to be COVID related or happen during COVID. If you had a issue before COVID and it actually carried on through the pandemic, then that can be utilized as well. So they relaxed those rulings on it, and it was also updated just recent March. So it doesn't have to have happened during COVID. As long as that issue actually carries on through the pandemic, then they could actually receive those funds as well. And on the application, I know a lot of them put the one that Brian created for everyone, they put their needs. So I guess that's one of the things that can be looked at, what is needed for, because a lot of them actually wrote what they were needing for these actual funds. Someone put operations. I'm just talking about the small businesses, because the small business need would be completely different from the nonprofit. So they actually put their needs in there and what they were going to utilize the funds for.
So I think there perhaps is a decision to be made between what we can do and what we should do. Can we distribute money to any business that applies without any analysis as to the impact of their needs in COVID? Yes, we can. And I think the decision that this committee and ultimately the Board of Commissioners is going to have to make is, should we do it that way, or should we focus more on COVID-related needs? Likewise, I think, can we set a minimum that everybody gets and a maximum that everybody gets? Yes, we can. Should we do that? And I think we do have, I think there are two different discussions, and it kind of feels like we're having two different discussions. Can we sprinkle this money out among businesses, even those that weren't necessarily impacted by COVID? Yes, we can. Is that what we should do? Is that the decision ultimately that this committee is going to recommend and the Board of Commissioners is going to agree on? So I think that's a fair point. And I think if we're going to narrow down from the what can we do to what should we do, I think that's where the consultant becomes more and more important. If what we ultimately decide to do is that every applicant for small business relief funds gets a minimum amount, then I don't know that we need anybody to help us do that. We just look at a list of applicants and write a bunch of checks.
Yeah.
But if we want to have any analysis, any review of any review of the need, any review of the impact of the grant that we receive them, then I do think we're probably going to need a consultant to get in the middle and do that.
And the language with the Department of Treasury is recovery and restart. So let's make sure we think about those two words. So it's not all related to COVID. My only concern is I don't think that we should be more strenuous than what the Department of Treasury is telling us to be. Because in that case, you're going to have a small business that really needs these funds and you're eliminating them because we're being so strenuous based on ruling that wasn't even given to us from the federal government. So we need to think about that as well. The whole point is to assist our citizens, our residents, to assist our small businesses and nonprofits. So if we're placing stipulations that are not even required, then what are we doing?
Well, I would add, I don't think we should make it such a difficult act or task that it hinders needed businesses or nonprofits to receive the funding. But I also would think that we might have some small businesses or nonprofits that might need more than a 10,000 and can make a larger impact to the community. So I think the consultants would assist us with that because if there's a business in the community that has a larger impact and can make a big difference, then why would we only provide 10,000 to that business? On another note, several other counties are also using some of the funds internally to address some of their county needs. And I mentioned to the committee the last time, we're going to bring that request up to the board and you all make that decision. But there are some needs within the county that we think that are appropriate for ARPA funding to address for our needs.
And just to add, some of the commissioners actually allocating funding to their district in regards to small business and nonprofits. I know I can't speak on Commissioner Mason and the other ones that are allocating their funds, but I know for my district, I want to reach as many businesses as possible. And I get that you're saying that certain ones, and I completely agree with some parts of that, but I want to make sure, because I know the small businesses that are in my district. And if I'm giving them $1,000 or $5,000, that goes a long way with that. Like I said, that salon owner, that barbershop, that nail salon person, that person that has those smaller businesses, that would go a long way. So I know for the 300,000 that which is separate from the 800,000 that's in the pot just for small business and nonprofits, I know that I would want to reach as many of the businesses in my district to make sure they're getting something to assist them to be afloat. And as I stated, $5,000 or $1,000 to that small business can go a long way. Now, if we're doing different stipulations for the one that's countywide, then that's on the Board of Commissioners. But I know like I said, I can't speak for the other commissioners out of their 1 million, how they're allocating their funds to their district. But I know for my district, I definitely would like to reach as many businesses as I can because I know their concerns and we all are in our districts and we hear from them. So that will go a long way. So I don't know how we're going to work that, but I know for the 300,000 that I was allocating in regards to that, I would like to reach as many businesses in District 3 as possible.
All right, so guys, I got a hard stop at 1 o'clock. So I guess we need some, I'm not trying to take the lead here. I'm just asking. So do we need to have some firm questions for the board at the next meeting to be answered, to be voted on? I guess I'll leave that up to Jarvis and Patrick. But we get on these calls and we talk, and then but we eventually have to roll up to the commissioners, right? So we need some hard decisions. We need some decisions to be made. Votes, I guess, at a meeting upcoming, right?
Yeah, I agree, Commissioner, and we do need more meetings because, like you said, having meetings here or there is not really getting these funds out as needed. So it will have to be, and I know that question has to be answered from Patrick or Jarvis, but we do need to move forward in getting this stuff on our BOC meeting agenda so we can move forward with getting these funds out.
I have a quick question, if I may. And I guess this is the committee. Hello.
That sounds like Commissioner Henderson.
Hey, Commissioner.
How you doing? I have a quick question, if I may ask. And my question is this: is that I think for a few months, maybe 6 months, maybe a year, I've been trying to spend my money in my district, same as I think most of you have, and we have spent a little bit. And I've sent my list out of some of the churches that I want to receive money, because in District 4, there's a lot of food insecurities. And so we wanted to reach out to the churches, and just as Commissioner Sanders has said, was we wanted to give them from $10,000 to $20,000 to help address those needs, among some other things that we have on the list. So when is that going to be addressed? Because I've been getting those questions, and people basically getting tired with me saying, well, we haven't discussed it yet, or we're not talking about it. So could somebody tell me, when would those questions be asked? Is when will we have an opportunity to either vote on the funds and give them out to the people from District 4 and other districts, or are we just going to continue just talk and talk and talk?
Commissioner, that's a great question. I think if we can have some of these items discussed at the next board meeting to start moving forward. I think the holdup was we were waiting to hire the consultant to assist, and that was the purpose of the delay. I think that needs to be the first question that we're going to decide on, whether or not we're going to move forward or we're going to wait on the consultant. I think that is the main question need to be addressed from the committee.
Okay. Well, most of the money that I've allocated, especially to the churches, I think all of them, or most of them, are already nonprofit and have this, and they should have or could make application to their SAMS number. So what that means is similar to what we are doing for the mental health, for the I guess doctor's office off of Mill Street, helping healers. And so, I don't believe, and I could be wrong, we don't need a consultant for that. We just need to make sure they have what we ask for on hand or show at some point in order to receive those funds.
Just to add on to Commissioner Henderson, I agree, because the board already voted on the first allocation and the categories of where these funds are going to go. I know for the individual commissioners, we voted to say that commissioner can spend their funds in their district based on the categories that are listed. So all we have to do is just vote on it. So waiting on this any longer for a consultant is really going to not be a due diligence to our community and those who are in need, and we're trying to give these funds to assist, like food pantries and various things. So we definitely need to move forward with those allocations, especially from those commissioners, so we can get those out and all those categories that are on that list.
We'll have the next meeting.
So I guess it's ultimately up to the board on where they want to go with that we can bring that suggestion to the board. But I personally don't think we need a consultant for the first allocations that's already been done, and we've took months to put together and have the board actually already vote on. So I don't think we need a consultant for that. Yeah, yes, for the next amount, because the board definitely needs to come together and decide on how they want to spend the next 10 million. So I agree with that, but we've already done the work for the first $10 million. And we also, we haven't even discussed the COVID relief. As we notice, the numbers for COVID are increasing, and it's also calming within our county right now. So even some of the PPE materials that we need for our county employees, we need to order a lot of that. We have funding for that. To provide testing on site. I know that the sheriff office has a site location where we can go over there and do it, but we don't have one just specifically for county employees. If they feel like they're, feeling a certain way, they can just walk into that office to get tested. We have funding for that, but we have not moved forward. I mean, we've thought of that plan and put that process in place, but a lot of stuff on that first allocation, we have not moved forward with that we can help protect our employees and provide the services that we need.
So it sounds like you're saying the next board meeting, you want us to go ahead and move forward and bring these items up for the board's decision. I'm okay with that if that's the will of the other committee members.
I'm okay with that. And kind of sort of piggybacking off of what Patrick said a while back at the last meeting, the public meeting that we had at the courthouse, is to possibly have a special call meeting that's only ARPA, just ARPA, because if we do this during a regular meeting, that meeting is going to be forever. And we know there's going to be discussion, and commissioners are passionate about their districts. It's okay. We're passionate about our areas. So I do believe that should be a special call meeting that only deals with ARPA funding, and we're only talking about ARPA. So we're not putting all of the other agenda items that needs to come across, because if we put on that third reading, which is also planning and zoning, we're going to be there all night. So if we can do a special call meeting just for ARPA that may last an hour, 2 hours or so, then we can knock it out, and that would already be done. That's my suggestion. I know we need the other board members to agree with that, but that was my suggestion.
Yeah, a special call meeting would be good.
I agree with that. So we can get with the clerk, Ms. Jackie, and see about a date and check all of you all's availability and go from there. I get with the chairman, of course.
Yes, sir. That sounds great. Patrick, if you can, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Last night I had a town hall meeting with my district. I do that every month. And one of the suggestions they made to me, because I discussed how I was spending my $1 million in my community. And I don't know, and I probably have to contact the Department of Treasury, but I want to put this out there. They were asking if I can take a portion of my $1 million to utilize $50,000 to have just our own sheriff deputy, hire a sheriff deputy for our area, because with District 3 being the most dense area, they wanted to know if ARPA funds can be utilized for that, at least for 1 year. My question to them was, what's going to happen after that 1 year? They was like, we hope the county will actually come in and take over that. But they wanted that. They asked me this question on our call last night, was can at least $50,000 be paid for just a deputy in the most dense area on the west side, so we have someone that just caters to that area, because our fire stations are far from that area, and so as we have certain things that are occurring, so I would love to find out if that can be done, just to make sure we're in compliance.
So it probably could be done. I mean, I think there's some other issues that would need to be addressed. If the goal is to have a designated deputy there all the time, you're probably talking about 3 to 4 deputies, because obviously they only work they only work shifts.
Yeah.
There's holidays, there's court time. Ultimately that would be the sheriff's decision. The sheriff
Right.
gets to decide
Right.
where to allocate his resources. If, however, the board wanted to allocate funds to the sheriff, then those funds could be allocated to the sheriff. And at that point, it would just be a matter of an agreement between the sheriff and the county to focus on a specific area. But I will tell you that I can't speak for the sheriff and wouldn't, but that could get much more complicated and complex than
Okay.
operationally. That could create a lot of issues operationally.
Okay.
But is there something, is that an appropriate use of ARPA funding? Yeah, it probably is. To provide, that would sort of fall under government services, government operations. You're permitted to do that.
Okay. And I'll bring back the parameters if we do that. So thank you so much. That's why I brought it up, because I think some of them might be on the call. And I wanted to make sure that they heard the parameters just in case we did that.
So what I will do in the next day or so, and I'll distribute it to y'all to have a look at, is try to formulate the questions that we're left with today. How do we deal with the business assistance? I don't want to leave an open-ended question. I think to Commissioner Edwards' point, we don't need an open-ended question. We need a more pointed question. Do we do A, B, or C? And try to narrow the how do we deal with business assistance down in a more meaningful way. And I think the question, and I'm going to have to make it a simpler question, is would be, is it well, first of all, do we wait on a consultant or no? I think that would be number one. Number two would be, do we have a minimum payout? Do we have a maximum payout? And then I think another question would be, if we do a minimum payment, or regardless, whether we do a minimum and maximum or not, how do we decide within the guardrails how much any applicant gets? I don't think we want it to just be, how much do you need? Do you really need that much? I think there ought to be some analysis as to what, if I equate it to a couple of years ago when the federal government was making those payroll related loans, I'm not suggesting we make it that complex, but there was a relatively complex application formula that determined what the amount of funding you received was. I don't think we want it that complex, but
Right,
I do think there ought to be some analysis about whether you get 10,000 or 5,000. And it should be based on something more than you just asked for it. Because look, if you tell me there are grants available anywhere from the amount of $1,000 to $10,000, when I fill out my application, how much do you think I'm going to ask for? I'm going to ask for $10,000. Why wouldn't I? There's no reason not to ask for the maximum amount. So I think we ought to at least have that discussion. I will tell you, I will err if we want any kind of subjective analysis, any kind of quality analysis as to how much someone is entitled to, I will desperately urge you to use a consultant for that. We are not equipped. Jarvis and his staff are not equipped to do that. And I don't think you want Jarvis and his staff doing that. I think that's a potential for problems. And I think the next thing we need to start discussing, obviously, is what do we do about the consultant? But I think the next thing we need to start discussing is big picture, where do we drop the new ARPA allocation? As Mr. Sims has stated, there are some legitimate needs, some legitimate governmental needs. And I think what we ought to be looking at is, does addressing those governmental needs provide, what's the social benefit of those? What's the benefit to the community of those? Does that benefit, is that a more effective community benefit than handing someone $5,000 to support their business? And I don't know. I think there probably are some government programs that may have a more meaningful, longer lasting impact on your community than simply direct grants to the public. So I think those are things worthy of discussion. So I'll try to make those kind of concrete, discrete questions that allow the board to kind of focus on one topic at a time. I mean, this is a big, ARPA is a big thing. Everybody is struggling with it. No, the only, I'll say everybody, the only governments that aren't struggling with it are those that have kept that money in-house. Those that have applied that money for government operations or truly used it to replace lost revenues. It's easy for them, but they're not having the type of community outreach and community impact that this board wants. So I think we just have to balance those two. It does make your ARPA program more complicated, and it will likely make it more expensive the more outreach you do. But that's a judgment decision that the board gets to make. So I'll try to narrow some questions down, distribute it to all of you for review, and hopefully have those on an agenda upcoming.
Okay. And also, if you can include on there, I know the Salvation Army requested more money for the homeowner rental assistance because they're almost out. I think they are out.
They are out. That's what I was just about to say.
They're out.
They are out.
Yeah, that went through like less than 2 months. So that lets us know the need in our community. As I stated before, Newton County is over 20% poverty rate. And with the increase in the housing market and salaries not increasing and people are still making the same amount in regards to trying to survive, that is something we need to look at as well. I mean, it's before our eyes. We can't stop it. I don't want the homeless population to increase because that's increasing here in Newton County as well. I see them rapidly in our county as I drive by various areas. So that's something we got to think about as well. Do we want to put more in the pot for homeowners and rental assistance? I did speak to the mayor briefly because I was asking him, because I know they receive, I think, about 10 million. And I was asking him to partner with us and to put in funds for the homeowner and rental assistance because a lot of it's coming from City of Covington in their jurisdiction. So I don't know. He said that they were utilizing it for something else, but I was just hoping that we could provide some assistance from there as well as not just all falling on the county because we all receive these dollars. So, but that's up to that city council of how they would like to spend their funds.
Well, Patrick, I would like to just add the word you stated was balance, and I hope we're able to do both, recognize the needs in the community as well as address some needs within the county. And I think that's a better approach of utilizing these funds.
And what was do you have the list with you, Jarvis? What was the items that we were requesting for out of ARPA? I'm sorry if I'm putting you on the spot. If you don't have it, I can go back to my email. I don't want to.
As for addressing the county needs?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so right now currently the list indicates we have about 14 million, which includes the second round. We're only asking for 6 million, and that were various departmental needs from the sheriff, a $1.4 million need, from EMA, from recreation, parks and recreation, various departments, and I'll be happy to provide that list over again.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. And do we need I know Waka mentioned earlier about citizens' comments. Are we opening it up to the citizens?
That's decided, that's up to you all as a committee.
Okay.
But we are running at, let's see, it's 12:56, so just keep that in mind.
Okay.
I have no problem if the committee wanted to make comments.
Okay. I don't know if any, I'm done with mine. I didn't know if any citizens had comments, or if they didn't, we can disperse, we can adjourn. Well, we can adjourn.
Okay, I was
Thank you all.
looking if I noticed any hands up.
Okay.
No, we didn't see any hands in the chat. So we thank you all so much for joining us today. I think we had a great discussion, and we appreciate you supporting and caring for Newton County.
Oh, there is a hand.
Thank you
we
all.
see one?
There is a hand.
Thank you.
She
Okay.
said, there's a hand.
I keep them in the car and I just wipe them.
Okay.
Go
Hey,
ahead.
I just want to be really quick and first off say, my name is Dana Herring. Thank you all for what you're doing. and I think Commissioner Sanders hit on it in the very beginning. When you put out something to people, if you could list all qualifications versus changing them midstream, it gives off a better perception, and it also is it just makes me feel better about the situation when everything is listed up front versus changing it midstream. Requirements is what I'm referencing. That's all I want to say.
I think that's a fair assessment, but I think also knowing that it might be impossible to have all the requirements because it just might be impossible. And as Commissioner Edwards stated, also I was under the impression that just people assume that you would have to have, if it required a business license, that would go without asking. But I understand what you're saying, and the directions need to be clear and stated. So your comment is duly noted on my end.
Uh-oh, we got more comments. I guess I call Ms. Hopper.
Yes, really quick. Thank you again for this opportunity. And I'm so impressed in how we are impacting the community with the funds. Just want to add a comment. I put it in the chat. My organization received funding under this federal government program. We serve DeKalb County. DeKalb County did have an application process. They have and when you do grants, you have a scoring to see how well persons or organizations meet the criteria. So it's equitable, and the consultant will know this. So based on what the score is, will determine if the business qualifies. Okay, that keeps it simple. It is also important to note the government more than likely will ask for reporting to see how the funds were used. Mm-hmm. And so one of the questions that the businesses and nonprofits have to meet is, do you have the capabilities to track how you use the funds? DeKalb County audited all of its grantees after we received our funding. My organization received $100,000. They asked for receipts. I had to do a grant narrative to describe how the funds were used. They also capped how much of the funding supported administrative fees. That's salaries, right? I think we could only cover about 20% for salaries. They wanted 80% to go to direct services. So a consultant will know how to create the criteria, put a scoring sheet together so that it's equitable and it's not a subjective process. But yes, reporting, this is government money. So you want to make sure that everybody that receives the funds has a reporting structure that is the same, so that when the government comes back and asks Newton County, how did you distribute the money? How was it used? You have already put that in place with your grantees. So thank you again for what you guys are doing.
Thank you. Excellent points.
I think there was another Miss Williams. And so we can disperse.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. I guess this question would be for the county manager. I attended the EMA training class meeting that they had on yesterday at Turner Lake, and they stated that they was going to put 3 new sirens in, one in the city of Covington, New Bern, and Porterdale. And Jarvis, this was before you came on, but when the tornado hit, we didn't hear the siren go off on the west side of the county because the density level is so high. They build a lot of houses and businesses over there. So my question is, can we have another siren installed with some of those funds as well?
That'd be something we look into. I appreciate you bringing that to my attention, and I will follow up with the EMA director regarding your question.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
I think we done, Ms. Hughes.
All right. Thank you all so much for joining the call today. Y'all have a great day.
Thank you all. Have a great day.